out of line years ago, and we don't even have, I don't even know if there's pure documentation that that road should exist, but, and whether the city has the documentation from that comment. My comment is this: I don't see how that impacts from dropping out onto 29, and why can't we stick to the standard to allowing these divisions to put a road necessary to complete at least the 2-acre developments? And it just doesn't make sense. So, and then the other comment is, when we do developments and so forth, we need to make sure our septic, our sewer, and our water is in place when we want to accept these as a city, because if we don't, we will overstep ourselves and not complete the division correctly and be holding a division liable that we shouldn't be holding liable. So we really need to start looking at all the people that play into our developments. Thank you.
Thank you.
My turn. Scott Enos. And I just would like to make a comment, bring to everybody's attention that the Planning Commission unanimously recommended denial of that plat. After a whole lot of thought, a whole lot of discussion went into that. But I'm here as just, I am on the Planning Commission, but I'm here as just a concerned citizen. This is a very important step in the planning of our town. That we have a general plan that we put a number of people put a lot of effort into. And there is, or was proposed, a north-south. And the north-south road proposed, or that was in the general plan, is blocked by a piece of property that's thousands of feet long that blocks anything going north and south. Imagine, when you look at this plat, imagine being the person that's furthest to the east and you own that house there. And you want to go to the chocolate factory, a business development that we put in over there because we all wanted something like that. Well, you got to drive all the way down or walk all the way down. Okay, walk, don't we want a nice community we can all walk around and enjoy? But you have to go all the way down. How many feet down to 2,900, over, and then all the way back up 3,000? Is that planning? Does that make any sense to anybody? Speaking of roads and paying for roads, we all live along the road that somebody paid for along the way. That's the price of business. That's what it takes. I really hate taxes too. It's probably not, I don't know what it's going to cost to do that, but it's the right thing to do. It just is. And obviously the Planning Commission believed that. It's a big deal because if we do this, we block ourselves on the road. Okay, that was 32 houses. Okay. 10 cars per house. That's only on the east side of Probst. What happens when the center, where Probst Farms, all that, what's that get developed? You don't think there's going to be roads coming on the Probst from the west? Multiply that times probably 2. Something could happen. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, any other comments on anything?
Cam Brown. I guess the question I have on this new proposed road, who's responsible for payment? Who's gonna pay for that road? Do we know?
Not yet.
Okay. Who would have to pay for the access on 189 on the south side if we were to do that? Because I'm assuming the road's going to go north and south, correct? I know the proposal mostly is to go through our land.
Well,
to the north.
the general plan shows it going north and south.
Right.
That's a general plan. That is future. That was put on there because we had to put a line on there to show, right? Yeah, we can answer these.
Go ahead and ask
as-
the question.
Yeah. Ask your questions and then we'll try to answer them when we get to it, okay?
Well, so the one thing I would be concerned about is if we do approve this subdivision and they stub the road right up against our property, and then we decide to develop or do something with that land, and we have no plans whatsoever to do so. Who would be responsible for that road? Because we don't want it, obviously. Would we be responsible for putting in a road that we don't want? Or would the town have to condemn our land and buy that from us, and then you guys would have to, the town would have to put the road in as well. And then would the town have to do the same thing to the south, all the way to 189, and who's gonna pay the, whatever UDOT to have access to 189? So I understand Scott's point. It is, the whole plan, it is in the plan, right? And I get that and understand that point. However, do we want another Charleston circle, Charleston Road, another Winterton Farms, where Charleston is now in charge of putting in a whole new road, an expensive road. Not only do you have to put the road in, you have to pay the land to put the road in. And then you have to maintain it after we just borrowed however much to do a nice road over there right now anyway. So I guess those are my questions. Who's paying for it? Obviously, we don't want to be stuck with the bill because we don't want to pay for something. Or the main point is we don't want to be forced to do something with our land that, and a road very well could help us out one day. I don't really see that happening as of right now, but being forced to do something with land that you have a bunch of blood, sweat, and tears for years and years and years, I'm not quite sure that's how things should work in Charleston, but anyway.
Okay, thank you, Cam. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else? Okay then, public comment is closed. Now we'll move on to our Health Department annual report. Neil Burton and Janelle Fitzgerald.
I'll stand over here if that's okay.
Yeah,
I won't bite you, Jim.
You're good.
We'll just give one of these to each of the board members, and we've got others available if anybody
Thank you.
here who is interested. Well, first of all, from the Board of Health, we apologize a little bit for how late we are in getting a 2020 report. We're almost through 2021, but as many of you know, we've had this little thing called pandemic to kind of worry about at the health department, which has kind of consumed a lot of our energy. So we apologize for that, and we'll try and do a little better job next year. But just wanted to give you our annual report and briefly call attention to a couple of things. And I'm joined by Janelle Fitzgerald, who is our new health officer, and I'll comment on that in just a moment. But the annual report has a health officer message from Randall. As you know, Randall has stepped down, and I'll comment on that in a minute. But he's talked about some of the challenges that we had in 2020 with the pandemic and other potential emergencies that have come up, and how we responded to them, and so we'll let you read that on your own. As you open the brochure, it talks about the COVID-19 response. It's been interesting from a health board standpoint to see the cooperation that's taken place between the health department and a lot of entities, the hospital system, the county, the various mayors, governmental people, and whatnot, public work, so forth, in trying to get through this. And I think we've built some bridges with a lot of those people that we didn't have as health department before, in regard to cooperation on something of this magnitude. Personal protective equipment, vaccine clinics, contact tracing, so forth, all have been things that we've had to work through and figure out and coordinate with all of these other units. So we're proud of how that went. Nothing goes perfectly, but we feel like we've accomplished quite a bit. Couple of health snapshots. Those of you who are here, was it last month or the month before, we talked about the groundwater study, and we just wanted to call attention to that, and those of you that here understand what that project entailed, and we look forward to having some intermediate steps in the next 20 years to make sure we preserve the good water that we have in the county. The WIC program has had some challenges, obviously with COVID, but also with transportation. And so they purchased a new clinic that on wheels to take what we have to offer out to people in the county, and we're proud of how that's going. We have another program called Parents as Teachers, and I'll let Jonelle comment on that, where we want to help those people who qualify for this, usually low income, low educated situations, to help them prenatal care through kindergarten. So a comment has made that in your brochure, and I'll let Jonelle talk a little bit more about that. Our budget is listed in there. The little insert on one side gives the programs and services that we offer, and then a welcome and farewell. And I would just like to thank Randall publicly for all he's done for our county during the time that he was served as the health officer. He could have quit like a lot of health officers did throughout the state in the middle of the pandemic, because he was going to retire a lot earlier, and instead he chose to stick it out until there was at least a reasonable breaking point, and that's when he stepped down. So we want to thank him publicly, and want to welcome Jonelle. It was just exciting to see that our very best candidate was within our own ranks, and Jonelle has served almost 2 decades in the health department, and has been an integral component of what we've done during this pandemic, and we very much appreciate her, and it's been fun and exciting to work closely with her as a board as we move forward. So with that said, Jonelle, take a minute or two and
sure, I'll
comment on some of these.
I'll be brief. I want you to know that Dr. Burton does a good job and is a good representative of Charleston, and we're very happy and appreciative of him, and he's been board chair for a while now, and he does a good job. So one thing to remember with this is our 2020 annual report. So the numbers and the information that you're seeing about COVID response were as of December of last year. And you all know a good amount of work has happened, and a good amount of changes have come since then. The biggest thing is the wide availability of vaccine. So this will be news to Dr. Burton. Even I found a report today from last December, and if any of you follow, well, a matter of fact, right on the inside of this brochure, it says as of December of 2020, we had 77 people in Wasatch County hospitalized for COVID-19. In October, we had 72, I believe, when I looked at the report. Today, and I believe this is a direct result of vaccine, we have less than 5. So Delta variant is out there. We do see about equal spread. So we're seeing about the same number of people getting coronavirus now as we did last year at this time. So about 10 new cases every day. And we did have a spike in September, which was a little bit, it was worrisome. And you all heard on the news that the hospitals were in trouble. And that was really real. But here in Wasatch County, we had less than 5 hospitalizations through the month. And there was a point in the last couple of weeks where we had 0. We have a decent amount of vaccine uptake. We're really close to hitting 70% of our eligible population having at least 1 dose, and we're just over 50% totally vaccinated, of people fully vaccinated. So I think that's making a difference. Something obviously is, and so I think that's a huge relief to us. So, and we do really appreciate the support of the different municipalities, and Brenda's been on meetings with us throughout, and all of the communities here helping with all the things we've been doing. Dr. Burton mentioned the PAT program, and I do want to just take a second about that, because I think that this might be a place that you guys might know someone. So the PAT program, Parents as Teachers, we have a couple of nurses who are actually able to mentor a young family who are really in trouble. And so that's who we're looking for. And we know that for the most part, we have good communities where people are taken care of, and most people do all right, but every once in a while you find somebody that really struggles and they're in trouble and have a hard time taking care of their young kids, or whether it's substance abuse or mental health or disabilities or whatever it is. This is an opportunity where we can have someone really work with that family to help them access services and get the help that they need to not have that become, a generational issue or something like that. So I think that's all I have. I'd welcome any questions if you have any, and just appreciate you supporting the health department, and we'd love to help you in any way you see we could.
Joelle, do you know anything about the booster shots?
Latest news is so booster shots are recommended for those 65 and older who received Pfizer vaccine.
Okay.
Early on in our vaccine effort, but most of Wasatch County got Moderna. So the reason for that is Utah was allocated a specific amount of doses from our federal providers, from CDC, and Pfizer vaccine has to be stored in ultra cold storage, and the bigger health departments, Davis and Utah, Salt Lake County had ultra cold storage, and we didn't. So the allocation was that Moderna went to more rural areas and Pfizer went to those places. Now we're actually pretty happy that it turned out that way, because Moderna is turning out to be pretty much the best as far as immunity, and we do expect to see a booster dose recommended for those that got Moderna. I just don't know how long. Some expect it to happen the end of this month, maybe next, and that'll be just for folks who are either if you're immunocompromised and you've got Moderna, you can get Pfizer. You can switch back and forth. If you're immunocompromised, then that's because antibodies basically never did produce the way that they needed to. So anyway, we'll watch, and we also expect the end of this month or sometime soon to see vaccine available for younger than 12 as well, 5 to 11-year-olds, and that'll probably come out the end of this month, next month as well. And that keeps getting delayed. Every time we say that, something delays it. So.
Okay.
Questions before we yield the floor? Thanks. Let us know if you're concerned about anything from the health department, and I'll make sure Jonelle keeps in line.
Thanks for having us. Get out of
Thank
here.
you. Thank you, you guys. Okay, we're going to move on to our next one, which is Davies Design, which is Pheasant Glen. Jonathan Jensen. Okay, Jonathan, nice to meet you. We're going to have you talk a little bit about this, then we're going to have...
You want me to go first?
Yeah, why don't you go first and then Jonathan.
Which is our tradition.
Yeah.
So this has been as Scott said, this has been thought over, it's been looked at several different ways. Quite honestly, I was on the planning commission for Charleston for about 3 years during the 90s. I worked for the town for the last 21 years as staff. I've been dealing with planning commissions for well over 30 years, and these situations are hard. And a lot of times they get full of emotion. And the thing you have to remember, as we've discussed before, is cities and towns are a creature of the state. So we can do what they say we can do, and we can't do what they say we can't do. This subdivision was originally proposed as under our farm and open space subdivision for 20 lots with lots of open space and whatnot. And it kind of, as that came forward, was when the health department put a moratorium and said they wouldn't allow anything less than 2.5 acres for these hybrid septic tanks or alternative septic tanks, where they were allowing them on an acre until their study was done. And then in the middle of the process of this subdivision going through, they adopted that study, and they determined it was 2 acres rather than 2.5. So at that point, the developer changed to 10 2-acre lots instead of 20 lots. The project, as far as the plat map itself, the plat map, and I've included in the staff report what the requirements are for platting and what the zone requirements are for minimums. The plat map meets those with the exception of a couple very minor things. I think he said Sandy instead of Charleston in one of the notes, and there's let me look real quick. There's 3 things. Okay, yeah, there was a reference to city council that should be town council, and then and Wes can talk about this. Maybe a little bit. But there's I don't know what this serves, but it's in our ordinance and it's required. And it says that the note has to be added, a statement relieving town of Charleston of responsibility of maintaining all travel easements and other ways not specifically dedicated to use of the public. And it's in our ordinance. I've never seen it in any other ordinance, but maybe we got to take it out, but it's in there. It needs to be put on the plat. We've required the other plats to do the same thing that have been through here recently. So from that standpoint, my opinion is that it meets our code, it meets our ordinances. Then we get back to kind of where the planning commission was very concerned about, which is the general plan and a road on our general plan being required somewhere through this area. It's not tied down to survey coordinates in our general plan, but it says generally somewhere in this area there should be a map. The state law, it requires developments to adhere to the general plan. And then it also allows in our general plan to have what they call an official map. The official map is a transportation plan. The state law says that just because you have it on the map, that doesn't mean that the city or town has to immediately go and put it in. It's a future planning thing. It also says you can't require a landowner to dedicate or construct the street as a condition of development, except for under certain circumstances. Some of those, certain circumstances. I don't know if you guys remember when I ripped my lip up fishing, but it still bothers me. It starts rubbing on my teeth and sticks to my teeth. So I apologize.
I thought the hook was supposed to
Here's
be
your
in the
water.
fishing.
Here's some water.
It wasn't the hook. I wish it was the hook. It was the idiot that stepped on the ice and slammed his face into a big rock and shoved his 2 teeth through his lip.
He was a real idiot, huh?
It was a real idiot.
Yeah.
And he had to find his way back to the emergency room. because he was an idiot, he went fishing by himself. So anyway, apologize. So it's under certain circumstances, you can require them to put in a street. So if the town finds that it's needed, well, we've found that a street in that area is needed because it's in our general plan. And we said it's needed here. But then there's another part of the state code that talks about exactions. And exactions are when you require a developer to put in a street, give you water rights, give you a park, whatever. Those are exactions. And the state law says that you have to have an essential link must exist for a legitimate government purpose, which is providing transportation, legitimate public purpose, and the impact that development is having on the community. The planning commission, and I totally understand where the planning commission's coming from, Scott, and you know, Scott's. You know, I know this, you know, after the public, we had a public hearing, which we're required to have one during the process. The planning commission had a public hearing. They granted preliminary approval with the condition that they go out and work with the property owner to the north, which ends up being 2 property owners, to bring that proposed street to 3000 South. Now, backing up to the general plan, you know, my feeling is, well, they put those shrubs, you know, we could direct them to put the stub streets in for future planning. That's legitimate under this. If, you know, if they were saying, no, we don't want to put any stub streets in, we're not going to do that, I think we've got every right under state law to require that, and they've done that. When you get this essential link between the subdivision and pushing a road across somebody else's property, that's a whole different scenario, or, you know, under state law. And so, could you do that? In certain circumstances, you could. Let's say this area did have sewer, and we were putting apartments in, and there was, I don't know what the correct number would be. You know, it would, at that point, it would be probably up to a traffic study and some engineering judgment and some planning judgment and some legal judgment from our attorney. But at some point, let's just say we decided, you know, they wanted to put in 300 units back in there. We can say, well, 300 units could justify the need for that road to be pushed through, and at their expense, because there would be enough, you know, the amount of the development, be enough profit in the project to justify putting, you know, for this short. Now, maybe if it was a mile long, no. So, I mean, everything has to be looked at, you know, as, you know, on its own. You know, how does this meet? There are Supreme Court cases. There's 3 of the major ones that are based just exactly on this, is what the state law kind of basically codified the Supreme Court cases, and all these 3 Supreme Court cases that were back in the late 80s, early 90s, basically said you can't make somebody you can't take property away without due process, and you can't make them give up for the benefit of the public unless their impact justifies it. And so, like you're saying, if it's that important for for a certain thing to happen, which in this case is a road to be connected, then the public should pay for it. And I think that's what the Planning Commission, in their final approval, you know, went to. I think they realized they couldn't force this. So so during the process, they approved it with the requirement to go see if they could put it through. Then the next month, the developer, the applicant, asked for it to be back on the Planning Commission to ask them to reconsider their motion for the preliminary approval. And at that point, they did reconsider it, and the Planning Commission strengthened the recommendation to say that if the developer couldn't put it through, then they wanted the town to put it through. Now, during our reports to the town council, we reported that was the recommendation. The town council, it wasn't, an agenda item, it's, as it said in staff report. No official action has been taken one way or another by the town council, which is appropriate. Not until this point is where you take that kind of action. So then the developer's attorney contacted me, and we talked through it. I talked with Mark Smedley, and we couldn't find any reason to say you can't come forward with the final approval until the town puts in a road. That was an unreasonable request. So they came back with the application for final approval, a letter from their attorney stating why they were back and that. I'll let the developers, if they want to refer to that letter, then, but it basically, that's what it basically said was, we appreciate what you've done so far, but we think this is unreasonable, and we're going to go ahead and go through the process. Our own code says that once they make a final application, the town has 45 days to act on that final approval. We're well within that time frame. And so what, and so there's another section of the state code that says, let's see, I know what it says, but basically it says that if they meet, oh, here it is. If they have an approved water system, and they either have approved sewer system or approval from the county health department, and they meet all the requirements, the governmental entity shall approve the plat. And that's what we're faced with. And Wes has been working with them on the infrastructure. They've got the approvals. They've got my opinion is, from the planning standpoint, Wes can give you an opinion from an engineering standpoint as to whether or not this plat meets our code. But my opinion is it meets our code. There was concern, valid concern, that this stub road may never go anywhere. It happens. But really, under the state law, we can say yes, as I said before, you can require this road so that if you didn't require it, you wouldn't really have an opportunity. Otherwise, if you wanted to put that road, you'd have to condemn somebody's house in this subdivision or property and put it through. And so from what, like I say, the planning commissions, like I say, their concerns are valid. And it just comes to the point of, how important is the road being put in today? Is it important enough that the town would, at their own expense, condemn this property and put that connection in, or wait and see what happens? And like I said, it's very possible that the road won't connect to the north. It's more likely it will connect to the south because those properties will want to develop. To answer Cam's question, the famous attorney answer is, it depends. Depends on what you do. I mean, if you, not to put ideas in your head, but if you're gonna do, one lot at a time through there, then town probably couldn't justify forcing that road in. But if you're gonna develop the whole piece and whatnot, and who knows, it may be, depending on what's going on, it may be advantageous for you to have a road in there. May not, But at that point, if you're developing the whole piece and it made a lot of sense, then it's possible the town could say yes, and it would be at your expense. Just like this cross street is at their expense. So it just depends. Until we have a plan and something in front of it, it's really hard to just guess. I hope that answers your question. And so what, what you're faced with tonight is kind of a decision of whether to grant final approval. Final approval from this board is the final public process. There are still many things that go on behind the scenes. The county surveyor reviews the map, lots of different, the town, or the Charleston Water Conservancy District will have to stamp and sign it, the health department will have to stamp and sign the plat, Wes will have to put his stamp and signature on the plat as the city, or the town engineer. Generally what we'd have is, the mayor will be the last signature that goes on there, that's kind of our gatekeeper, to make sure everything else is done. Generally there's even, instructions to county recorders in the state law that says they can't record a plat unless all the signatures are on there. If it is, it's null and void, but we want to make sure from our own standpoint that everything's done. That Wes has stamped the construction drawings, that, as the town engineer, that, those are things that still have to happen before it will actually be recorded. As Mr. Bauer brought up, we do make sure that all of that stuff is done. So, and you're right, if we just said, okay, let's just approve a plat, and we'd never gotten approval from the Charleston Water Conservancy District, it's possible we would have to put somebody goes and buys a lot, and we also require bonds for the public infrastructure to make sure that they get, in, because, most laws come around because somebody did something stupid, and then some legislative body decides nobody's gonna be able to do something that stupid again. We've got, Wasatch View Acres, the 5-acre lot subdivision up northeast of Heber, was basically a land fraud scheme. A lot of state law was based on what happened there. There was supposed to be golf courses and townhomes,
Condos and.
well, not condos, but, no, they were gonna be large lots. Like clubhouses. Clubhouses, it was supposed to be this big thing. Well, what it ended up was a bunch of plats or a bunch of lots were carved up with easements across them, not even public, and they're still trying to straighten it out. I mean, I think, if I remember, it was done in the 50s or 60s. So like I say, if we didn't do our due diligence and make sure we had bonds and stuff, and any developer, not to point any fingers, but any developer said, okay, fine, you've got the plat recorded, we're not gonna put in the infrastructure, good luck.
Yeah.
We've got all the lots sold, it's possible we could have to do it, but that's why we get bonds, that's why we get all these things up front, what can you do? You can, I think back on one of my favorite attorney advices that I ever heard in this realm was from Jim Smedley, as the Heber City attorney when I worked for them, and the council said, what can we do? And Jim said, you can do anything you want. Only a judge can tell you differently. So we know that towns down southern Utah have seceded from the United Nations. You can do whatever you want. It doesn't make it legal, and it doesn't mean that if you're challenged in court, it's gonna stand up, and whatnot. My feeling is, if this plat was denied, that we couldn't defend that change. But that's just my non-attorney, but 30-some-odd years of experience dealing with things like this. If you want an actual legal opinion, then Mark is who you should get it from. But Mark and I have discussed this. He's been a part of this process all the way along, and we're on the same page. But I don't want to speak for him. I guess, is there any questions of the town board, or do you want to hear from the developer first, or the applicant?
Board, do you have any questions right now?
Does Wes have anything?
Wes?
I've got the plans. We had some minor red line changes. I got an update this afternoon that I haven't printed yet. I'm not concerned about those red lines and the changes. I won't stamp this plat till I'm comfortable with the plan. So as far as engineering, details on the plans, I'm comfortable, or will be comfortable when I stamp the plat.
Okay, well, let's hear from the developer then.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is John Jensen. I'm here with Greg Cronin and Tim Bass. Greg and I work for Davies Design Build, and we've hired Benchmark Engineering to help us design the plats and the subdivision. We are grateful to be in Charleston tonight. It's good to be with the town council. We have had, a handful of meetings with the city of or the town of Charleston, and it's been about 3 years because of COVID. It kind of added an extra year. We hope that the details that both came from Wes and from Brian, maybe other sources, have helped supply enough information to the board that hopefully questions can be answered. And generally speaking, we agree with the staff's report that we meet the city's criteria. We have stubbed a road as per the general plan, anticipating that whenever the city continues to grow, that other people would either follow that same alignment, or the city changes their plan and doesn't require that. It's up to the city. We obviously have a pretty low density, generally speaking, versus the 1 acre possibility. It's more or less two acre. It's a gross two acres per lot, but they shift around from like 1.7 to 2.2 or something like that. So, I don't know if there's much more to say.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, the lots themselves aren't 2 acres. We only require 1 acre with 200 feet of frontage. The health department requires a gross density of they count the streets, they count
Right,
everything
right.
in that 2 acre.
Right.
Well, they include the roads and all the infrastructure.
Yeah, they put in all
They
of
count
that.
that in the gross density for the
Right,
for their
right.
2
Okay.
acres.
In the calculation of the ground to absorb water. Yeah.
Okay.
Any questions? Okay, I don't have any questions.
I do. I have 3 of them,
Okay, good.
and it's just because I don't understand things very well
I
when
know.
I read them. First of all, it was mentioned earlier that this stub road would connect to 189. Where on 189 out there is there an access point that's established on and off the highway?
There's not. That would have to be determined at some point in the future, as it develops to the south.
Okay.
I got a comment on that. I mean, I've followed this plan or whatever you call it that
Bypass.
UDOT's doing as far as this bypass road and so forth. My personal opinion is you're not gonna see any added accesses to 189, ever.
Yes.
Comment on that, and I apologize, maybe slow on the comment. Mayor, it was probably under Mayor Kowalas, maybe you. There is a current agreement between UDOT, Charleston, the county, and Heber City, stating the only access to 189 are at specified locations. I don't remember where those are. Do you remember that, Brian?
Not off the top of my head, but our general plan doesn't say, I mean, we've been saying, it doesn't say it has to hook to 180.
I mean,
It could go straight south.
truth is, if that road was put in and went to 3,000 south and went all the way south, I don't think that connection would ever go on to 189.
It
It
may not- it
would
may
have
have
to
to-
come back through Charleston somewhere and probably connect on that intersection of 2900 West.
Or it could go straight through and connect to 3600. Now, that would mean a home would have to come down.
That's right, but I don't, just in my understanding of what I've seen with what they're doing, I don't see any kind of access road to empty subdivisions or housing developments onto 189 in an area where there isn't access now. Do you, Wes?
And I don't disagree.
So I think that's a moot point. It's never gonna go out on the 189.
It just needs
So
to
if it
connect
went that way, it'd
somewhere.
have to come through Scott Keller's property or somewhere back to and connect somewhere through Charleston.
And I think really that's what the general plan anticipates, is that it will go through there. The general plan doesn't ever say it will have to go and connect to one.
I mean, it shows on here, there's that one, it shows one up there, I guess that's on that piece of island dams, and then another one up there between 3,000 and 2,400 south. I don't see that ever happening. Too much traffic, and the way they wanna flow that traffic with the bypass road and stuff, they're not gonna allow access on there.
Okay.
Can I give you my feeling real quick? I just don't know that we have enough information to make a vote tonight. I think we need some, I mean, this just got put to us tonight, at least me. I think I need more information on it before I can vote.
Then I would request that you give us specific items that you need.
What more information do you need?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And remember that we have 45 days.
I know, and that's why I'm kinda wondering, this was submitted on 9/9 and
Yeah.
now it's 10/9. That was a month ago. So, but this is the first I'm seeing it tonight. You would have to drag me kicking and screaming before I condemn anybody's property.
Well, I think,
I don't,
I don't think
I don't
that
see
that,
that.
yeah, I don't think that's even, that's not even in my realm of thinking. I am not going to pay for a road, condemn somebody's property, and condemn a road. I would not vote for that either.
I would
And the town paying for that road. I would not do that.
The approval of this is not contingent upon that. That's what the
Yeah.
planning commission has asked you to do, but you can take that advice or not.
well, if that's not a consideration for the town board, then we have no
Right.
reason to deny their application.
I would agree with that.
Okay, I've got the, access points, the general plan I've got sitting in front of me. I gave my, guys a copy of that. You know, when we did this plan, this general plan, we had to put a connection road in there somewhere. This was not meant to say, okay, we're gonna go through Scott's property, we're gonna go through anybody's property to gain this access. But we had to put it somewhere, because if developers come in and develop, they have to have a way to get in and out. I understand where up on Probst Lane, I've drove that road many times. I understand why we don't want the traffic going out of there, just onto that road. I understand that. As I look at this map and I'm thinking, okay, we've got that right through everybody's property. I was on that committee. I was there. And the reason we done it was just so there would be something there to let people know that there has to be a road that connects somewhere. So as I've looked at this, and I tell you, yesterday, today, I've studied this a lot. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, what alternative ways can we do this that's gonna not really jeopardize the developers? It's not gonna jeopardize the Brown property. It's gonna enhance whatever is done. So as I look at this, I'm thinking, instead of that road coming through the middle there with that T, bring that road up to the end of the property, up by farther up, 189, bring that up to the end of that property. And then there is the piece that Cam and Alan have there, they're putting storage units on. Bring that road across to connect with that other road from this property. and put out on 3000 South, so that all Propst Lane isn't gonna get all the traffic, but we have another route, which would help you, because you're gonna have to put a road in there anyway to your,
Where would we have to put a road? Explain this to me again.
okay,
And the planning commission actually did consider this.
did they?
Yeah, they suggested that, but it was something that the Browns were not amenable to.
Problem is, Brown's property has frontage all the way up and down 3000
Right.
South. They can develop it without any kind of.
Well, if they put their storage units in though, they'll have to have a road into them storage units.
Just a driveway.
Yeah, but it'll only go into the, to
It'd
the.
be a public road, it'll only be a driveway. off
That's
of
true,
3000.
that's
Yeah.
true.
Can I finish with the other two items?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you'd done, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So Brian, you use the term, how essential is this development in the context of whether or not Charleston is obligated to put a road in?
What the link, what the impact.
Can we hold off on that one conversation?
Greg has a potential idea that maybe answers
It
what you
seems like
just
there's
said,
a lot of
but
conversations going on.
maybe positive in your direction. Can we talk about our idea as well?
Yes, I'm open for any ideas, I think that this is a time when we can,
Can we approach the
Yes.
table? Excuse me.
absolutely.
Usually, everybody, could we have, if we have to have conversations, could we just step out a little bit?
I'll let,
So we can try and keep some organization.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna let Greg try to point. I'm sorry, we're kind of far from you, but maybe this is a way to give you what you need and help the
Cam,
future.
Helen, watch this, okay?
Okay, well, I want to thank everybody. I mean, I've been on the commissions, I've served as a city alderman and done all that before. So thank you for this. It's been a very pleasant meeting so far. So I really do appreciate everyone's way in which y'all handled it. So thank you. I'm also have developed and done things, but this road, as best I understood it, is basically everyone sitting here thinking about the future but doesn't know the future.
Right.
Okay, that's what we're dealing with. So there's some apprehension, which is totally understood. Now, these landowners will not be adversely affected if this easement were to be deeded to the city, but this crossroad not necessarily be built today. We build the road all the way in, but these two stubs, you could have the easement, you've got the way to get there, you don't have to condemn anything later in life. Then whoever's wanting to connect there will have their way to connect without having to redesign something. So they get their access points from either landowner, either side would have an access point. If you like this end idea, we could take this easement where the water is already needing to be, and we could, the loop that's going around, we agreed
Twist
to
just
an
a hair
8-inch.
more for me, thank you.
We agreed to an 8-inch loop instead of one stub,
Uh-huh.
so it would enhance the pressure and everything for the whole area, so it would support an entire development, really. So that loop has created this water flow opportunity. But if you take it and you take this easement we're already putting aside, and we create a city easement through here, where a road can either tie in here later, or you'd have this easement deeded as well. You end up with two deeded easements that the city can choose from, that you don't have to go through eminent domain, or you don't have to actually sequester someone's property later. It just leaves your options open to both the end and here, based on what does come in the future. Now, we would then continue this road, and we could even put a little turn and a stop if we wanted to right there. Just something, but not necessarily go through and put that full part in.
Okay, so this,
Let me comment real quick, Mayor, if you don't mind.
this other option that you're talking about up at the end, where you go off there and up there, then you'd go back to where maybe we could hit in with Browns if they agreed to it.
It would take a little more of me looking at your map than I have thus far, but we would be open to, it's something that wouldn't adversely affect our efforts.
It buys you the easements, the dedications would be done, like you said, no condemnation. It gives you options that if the cross street currently isn't a good fit for the neighbors, And if the later, further into the property option makes more sense, and later the Browns say that makes more sense for them, then everybody's already created the opportunity to do it. Again, if they don't develop either side, you still have the design, but you have the easements or the dedications built into the plat. So people can't build there, they can't put walls there, you know,
Yeah,
they
these,
protect you.
these four property owners would all know that this is a deeded pathway for the city. Huh?
Right.
I've been enough.
No, no,
enough
I agree, I
experience
agree
with it.
From a legal point
When
of
you
view.
go to put this through, they will go crazy. They will landscape it, they will.
Yeah.
And then,
I fully agree with you.
So it may not be a
And then
good
who
idea,
pays for
right.
it later?
Yeah.
Right.
Because you're not gonna be able to, it'll really be the town that has to pay for it later.
Yeah,
Because when this person develops,
Yeah, we
you
don't
can't
want
make them
to
pay
pay for it.
this. When this person develops, you can't make them pay
So-
this. So then you say, well, okay, we'll bond for it.
Yeah.
The state law
Yeah.
says we can only hold a bond for 6 years.
So it may,
What is it, cash right now?
You need a big amount?
Well, I need it.
You can't, it's the same as the impact fee law.
That's true.
I mean,
the
I don't think
idea,
I just need
the
to
idea may
tile
not
all
be
together.
100%
Wes,
satisfactory yet.
do you have a copy, a bigger copy of
We
this?
have, I have a full size copy.
Oh, he has a full-size copy right
This
here.
was simply a way to provide two alternatives.
Well, I don't-
You're
I
absolutely
don't know that. I
correct
don't
that if
even
it
know
goes
what
too
that
far in the
is.
future, people forget
Realistically,
everything.
I don't even know where that is.
Okay,
And they will.
No, and I appreciate that we should brainstorm, but I'm just.
There's a full copy of the plat map, the civil plans are also here.
So where's
Below the
the road
plat
they
map,
want us
if you're
to
interested in
possibly
looking at
pay
those.
for? In and out of here somewhere?
right here out of Allen Brown, but we don't wanna force Allen, we don't wanna force Allen to, we don't wanna force Allen into putting a road in that he's not gonna be using.
Right, because Brown's on one side of the road.
Yeah,
Mayor, real quick.
No one has to be forced to do
Go
this.
ahead and come on up.
come up here,
Since you're an
please.
affected person.
I'm just trying to triangulate where it
Since
goes.
you're the guy we're talking about.
So if I'm understanding correctly, you want to put a road along the east side to 3,000, is that correct?
Up there.
Oh, there we go, the east side to 3,000.
Yeah, which would come in
Right,
front
so-
of your,
This is all yours, right?
This is all dad's.
Yeah.
I'm down a little bit more. For the storage sheds, we don't need a road here. We're going straight in from 3,000 into our facility.
okay,
Anytime, and it's interesting how this worked out, but every 200 feet, 10 is exactly 2 acres. So
Okay.
if we go 2 all the way down to dad's house, there's like 40 feet left over. So if we were to allow any road anywhere, then that is going to affect, whatever houses we want to put down 3,000. If we was, I don't even know how, what is a road, what do you got here? Is it 60 feet or
60 feet right away.
60
Well,
feet?
but that- 60 feet, 30, but they allow the roads in theirs.
Well, that's,
Under 2 acres.
the problem is, a lot of that is a
Development
prescriptive
for the
easement,
general-
So the court case says it's 66 feet. and-
Right.
okay.
Right, and so if we want to fudge the numbers a little bit, somebody's still gonna have to pay for land that the road was on.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It
So-
may not
so-
hit right in the middle of.
Basically, what we're saying is, we have no reason to ever put a road,
Somebody's gotta
because
pay for that road
the
off
two,
the
the
property.
2 acres, or the 2 acres fit perfectly
yeah.
right down that road. So for us to put a road in, Dad, you take over, Al.
We have one other issue, and that is this ground across the streets for sale.
Right,
And if it comes out to a road, we might not be able to sell that property. So we're kind of in a bind, because, if we ever develop that, and if they know there's a road possible there, we've been told that they might not want to buy it.
well, I don't
Who
want,
owns the other side?
These guys, same guys.
And I don't know how Dad feels. He may feel differently. I actually kind of like this design, and I would look forward to new neighbors. And
Yeah.
I'm looking at a field there that's not particularly farmed very well, so it's
Right.
kind of dead, and it doesn't look all that good. To have people back there, I feel like is an advantage to me and my family. If you could just guarantee us that we don't have to pay for a road out of our property, then
What if, just this thought. So on the master plan, you have a road going to 3,000 and then coming out somewhere on the south end. Nobody knows where, right?
Correct.
It shows it dumping on the 189. That's not gonna happen. I don't believe that'll ever happen. So what if you leave it the way it is, but you don't require the road to go through Browns, but you require any future development going south to put that road through this going south.
Right.
And then whoever's on the end that eventually wants to develop has somehow gotta get that. Now that puts everything coming back this way until it develops all the way through. But that would give a loop if you did it that
Eventually,
way.
And that's also something the planning commission considered, but they wanted the road to go through to the north, is that correct? That was
They don't
some-
want it to go on 2900 west.
And that was discussed, and that was something, but, and that's a possibility, and I think it meets the code, it's not a bad idea.
So right now, as we're looking at this, the only outlet for this subdivision, this cul-de-sac, is out onto Probst Lane,
Now say again?
is out onto Probst Lane
Currently? yes.
currently,
Those 10 homes, yes.
yeah.
For 10 homes, we've got one right over here with 6 that the only access to is 3,000 south. There's not that
Right.
much difference.
Yeah,
Right.
10 homes, what is the ITE, 10 trips per day roughly?
9.55, 10 trips per
Or
day.
10 trips per day, over a 24-hour period,
The key to that is 10 trips per day, 10 homes, 100 trips. That's throughout the day. We do our traffic studies on the peak hour. Peak hour, when the roads have their capacity, you're probably talking 8 trips.
That's a fraction of what we see with the school.
Yeah,
Yeah.
People leave their house 8 times a day?
No, that's peak
out and back.
hour.
And when he says 8, he's talking about total for the whole subdivision during the peak hour.
So that subdivision would probably, under the peak hour traffic, contribute 8 cars. Worst case scenario, 10 cars onto Probst
Going to
Lane.
work in the morning,
okay, okay, so,
in the peak hour.
You're looking between my house and Dad's house to 3,000, that's probably the most that Probst Lane's gonna be used. I know there may be some that
Yeah.
go towards.
Yeah, they're not
Go
gonna
south.
hit Probst Lane and go that way. They're gonna hit Probst Lane and go to 3,000 south and up at the stoplight or down to school.
okay, so, 1 minute,
So
So-
that, just from my standpoint, sorry, Mayor,
go ahead.
Ron, I think that is fine. As far as, if they don't stub the road to the north, it doesn't change meeting the
Doesn't
general
satisfy
plan.
the planning commission.
It doesn't satisfy, no, but from what I understand, short of actually building the road to the north, doesn't satisfy the planning commission. They want the road,
Well, it sounds to me like we can't satisfy that.
that's between.
Okay, so the dilemma we have here is, we've got a subdivision that meets our requirements. We have a road, which is Probst Lane, which all the traffic will come out on, until other development comes in down the way. But in order for development, because in the next plot, who is that next plot this way of that?
The next one's south is Allen Hill, or Mike Hill.
Okay, so if Mike Hill,
David Hill.
And he owns this as well, so he owns this and he owns this.
okay, so if he decided to do something with his property,
He's already applied.
if he's doing this, he's already this too.
This is David Hill's property.
oh, okay, all
Yeah.
right.
The back half of this is David Hill's.
South of that,
West, east
south of
side.
that is Metcalf. He's the next property.
Metcalf's the next property, then you, and then you. Okay, so if Metcalf decides to develop his property, then he would hook to that road that's going in there, which would take all the traffic through there and down. How many acres does he have?
And that comes back to Mike Bauer's thing is really with 2 acres, you've got 32 homes that could come out there.
That's the greatest amount you could have.
Okay,
And if you're saying what he said, one house.
That
every
probably
week,
still doesn't
That's 32
equal the
houses.
traffic that the school puts on the 3,000 south on a daily basis.
It's
Yeah.
5 minutes.
yeah.
Probst Lane is a lot narrower.
Yeah, Probst Lane is narrower.
So did we get to Daryl's third question?
Oh, did we get to your third question, Daryl?
No, I don't think I'm going to. I don't think I got a chance of going through my question list.
Go ahead, I'll shut up, you go through your questions.
You didn't get number 2 done, did you?
No, I didn't even get number 2.
Okay, go ahead, Daryl.
I'll stop talking.
I'll stop talking.
Everybody. No, I just may not understand a couple of these things, but I did have a couple of questions. Sounds like the north-south is probably out of the question, at least for the time being, because I don't think any of us are interested in condemning property to do it. So I'll go on to my next one, answer that one. So, and part of the condemning issue for me is, if you were to condemn anybody's property, that could adversely affect the remainder of their property as far as value and stuff. I mean, that's kind of an unintended consequence.
Well, even just having this right here, according to those guys, and I agree,
So,
it changes their value.
yeah.
And I really agree on that. I'm really want to be
It
careful
probably
with that.
does, but I don't think that's an illegal, people plan for roads all the time, but,
I do, we're just.
but, I understand. But, you know, Daryl, you know, you're right. When, I've been through several condemnations in my career and they're never fun. And, when you have an appraiser, the property owner has an appraiser, the town would have an appraiser, they take into all that in consideration.
Yeah.
It's not just
Yeah, I get it.
the value of that piece, it's how it affects the other.
Except-
And sometimes it increases the value of the other property.
Yeah, it could. I've got that. It could go either way.
Could go
But
either
who's
way.
to say what way it's going to go at the
Yeah.
time?
So, and the judge will take all of that into consideration when you condemn.
So, in the event that you did have to condemn property, then the town, in theory, would be responsible
Responsible.
for that road that's going to go on the condemned
Absolutely.
property, right?
And
Well,
the
it'll be a
property.
public road.
And to buy the
Cost
property.
construction.
And to buy the property, to build it, and maintain it.
Right. For a certain number of homes, which went back to my other question. Earlier, you posed almost an opposing view as to, well, if it qualifies according to our town ordinances, we have to approve. But you also came, earlier on, you mentioned how essential is a development to a town. That seemed to be a factor
It's
in
not the
whether.
development, it's how essential this road is
Okay,
to
so,
the town. So I believe that what I said, you know, what I was talking about was, if it's that essential to the town, then the town should pay for it.
right, and my
Given,
question
short
I would
of
pose.
the
I
impact
don't
that
see
the
it
development
sounds
has justifying
I don't
them.
see it sounding.
Does that-
so I
And if
would
we
not
decided
see
that,
a
hey, for
property.
20 homes or 12 homes or whatever it is,
About 80%.
we don't feel like that is an
Mhm.
essential thing that we provide that, then we would,
That's where
in
they
theory,
pay,
be,
that's why you put, they pay the
Required.
big bucks.
What's on this end of this right here?
yeah,
It's all
okay.
this right here.
So anyway, my last question
This is
was,
that one's property.
I'm assuming that the developer pays for
Right here.
the
That's where he's
the
gonna
road
put
that's
his.
put in the development itself, or
Correct.
is that something wrong?
No, no.
As shown on that plat.
On shown on that plat, they are responsible to build it,
Yeah.
and Wes will make sure we build it up.
And that's kind of been our philosophy ever since we were in farms, is that we want the developers to build roads to our standard if they
Yeah.
develop the property.
And we do have the standards for our
I'm not interested in
roads.
building roads at Charleston's expense right now. Are you?
Yeah, no,
Well, no, we don't have money to do that. I mean, but, so it sounds to me, can I kind of just summarize this? It seems to me what we're talking about is, if this is gonna happen, it would be approved based on that road going in and out off Probst Lane. It wouldn't be going beyond that.
Right.
Is that what I'm reading into this?
Right.
Until future development,
until
Or
future
future
do.
developments.
Or are we agreeing to this easement?
which,
This one right here, are we agreeing to that?
not necessarily.
Right away.
Right away,
It's
sorry.
right away, but, and it was like, you know, I've seen that go really bad in the past.
Right
Because,
now, we're agreeing to put that
yeah,
in. I mean, we're
Yeah.
not trying to get out of that at all.
Right,
and that's,
We'll put the stub in.
Yeah.
That way you've got everything handled for the future. If you ever use it, if you don't, don't.
yeah, and there's a possibility it could sit there and never be used and, you know, and it happens. You know, it's nicer if you just have an easement and the neighbors landscape over it, but then someday, if somebody, you know, let's just
Then,
say
when
that
this,
Browns decide, just for hypothetical purposes, that makes sense to put that road and connect, then they would pay for the road up to it, but who pays for the road there? Well, it would really have to be the town would pay for that pavement there. even though they would have to pay for the ground would be dedicated, but you pay for the pavement, and then you've got 4 property owners that are gonna come in here on court and say, well, nobody ever told us that. My realtor told me that that never would be put in, and, you know, I watched that dozens and dozens of times, and you know, it's hard enough when you have a stub street. I've had people come in and say, well, we never thought that road would go through.
Yeah, I see that 30+ years of experience is probably a good indicator that we probably shouldn't do things that just cause more brain damage for
Right down the
neighbors and the council.
I mean,
and the
quite
citizens.
frankly,
Well, and if you put that road in, it goes nowhere in either direction. What you've done is build the parking area for those 4 property owners that they'll really appreciate.
They'll put their RV, they'll put their RV on it, they'll love it.
Yeah, they put the basketball stand.
That's the
I've
first
seen
lot
the basketball
someone
stand
yeah,
on.
in a lot of communities, at the end of the stub streets, they will erect sign, have to make the developer put them in, but it says, this street will go through someday.
Yeah,
Just to put
yeah.
everybody on notice, and that doesn't always help either, but.
Is it too simplistic to think that in the process of selling these lots that are adjacent to this, that there would be a disclosure that the guys would sign, say, I understand that
Yeah,
this
no.
area is,
They do, we're just talking about how we know
They do,
they
yeah.
forget those things over
That's
the
the
years.
legality.
There's a stack this tall that they signed, and they don't really read them.
That's the legalities, then they come back.
I mean, we would love for y'all to say, just put an easement, let's not have to build those, I mean, that would be
Yeah,
cheaper
save
on us.
money.
Lot cheaper.
I mean, so the idea here is just simply, we pay for it now, it sits there, y'all tie onto it if you want to, or, you
And
know,
if, under Vaughn's idea of just going to the south, that really eliminates any possibility of that road ever going to the north, for the most part. If you didn't have an easement or somewhere, you just made that into lots, then, you know, if it's there, depending on how Browns decide to develop at that point, there's an option to hook it to, you know, but those are kind of decisions you know, that's what you're here to do.
So let me ask one more question. I can see this being beneficial for the other property owners in there. I can see this being detrimental to the Browns.
Yeah, could be.
Is there ever a time that there's compensation given? I mean, could they compensate for some of the damages that could be done to the Browns to put that T in?
Well, it's possible. I think what would have to happen, I mean, unless the town just said, okay, we think that we damaged your property by $100,000 and we're gonna give it to you. Really what would have to happen, what really happens is they sue you and say they call it an inverse condemnation, or, you know, it's, even though you didn't take my property, you dropped the value.
Right.
They're really hard to prove in court.
I know, I've just got my whole life trying to be careful with everybody else's property.
Yeah, no, it's, absolutely, and, you know, and that's why we're, you know, that's why we're here, discussing this. I mean, Wes can show you, I can show you roads around where the towns had them on their general plan and they're not there, and there's houses built on top of them because town didn't have the money to put them through, and the property owner said, you know, you let me put my house in, or I got more money than you do, and I'll bankrupt you.
Mr. Gardner?
Okay, yeah, Mr. Ken Gardner, Midway. You know.
So what would the difference be between you do this now, or these other properties develop and the town says, we really would like to have an access going to 3000 South?
Then,
And then, obviously, the Browns have already developed all of it, that
And that
makes it
no
impossible,
longer
but if
possible.
they haven't,
Yeah.
then you could come back to them and say, we'd like an access through there, either on the top end or that, I mean, that's an option too,
Yeah,
isn't it?
that's an option, absolutely. And what I would recommend, unless, you know, if you do say, okay, we're gonna have the developers put in this access to the north, and let's say the Browns develop and they do it in a way that road becomes a stub road forever, and, you know, then I would recommend the town abandon that easement, give it back to those 2 property owners, and, because there's no reason to have the maintenance, the liability, anything else on there. But if you put it there, it's a possibility. If you don't, it's not. But like I said, and then it's possible that the Browns could develop without utilizing that stuff, and then like I said, you know, it might be 20 years from now and I'll not be around what we did, but whoever, they ought to anyway, I mean, there's a realm of possibilities, but it's not a bad idea, in my opinion, to just go south. And we talked about that as a possibility. The planning commission felt very adamantly, and I think with good reason, that they wanted that property to go north. The problem is, in my opinion, is just that the laws are not in our favor to do what maybe is the right thing and what the planning commission wants, but we just don't have that ability to do that unless we're willing to pay for it ourselves as a town.
So any future developer going south,
Would have to pay for their road.
Well, just continue the,
yeah, but at any point you could say, well, we've developed enough now that we're concerned about traffic going that way, so you're gonna have to reroute a road
at
back
some
to
point there'll be
2900
enough
south.
traffic and.
Yeah.
Make a loop
And-
somewhere.
and I'll
You
tell
could
you-
require that of a future developer,
Yeah,
couldn't it?
and what a lot of, how this happens in a lot of cities, and we're at a disadvantage in this, because it's great that we're growing slow and we're not a high density, but how cities get around all of this, a lot of times is impact fees. But quite honestly, we don't do enough development to justify the cost of the impact fee, let alone the impact fee. And like we were talking earlier, you got 6 years to spend those. And you can only spend them on these types of roads that are for the general public. You can't spend it on maintenance, you can't spend it on subdivision style roads. It's only for like collector roads.
Right.
And so what happens with, in a city that's bigger than us and having a lot more development, is they could say to the north, we'll take our impact fees, because that's a collector street, that's part of our impact fee plan. It would have, it would have to be part of the capital improvements plan. There's all kinds of things that have to happen. And then they could say, okay, well, we will take that money and we will condemn the property and we will build that road. But we're, thank the good Lord, we are Charleston, we are what we are, and we're not that highly dense. We don't have that kind of population that we could justify impact fees,
Okay.
in my opinion.
Completely agree.
You got a gentleman back here.
Yes.
We just have a quick question for the developer.
Okay, go ahead.
Does David Hill have a preference on his connection on where he wants that road?
No.
Has he brought it up?
I would say there's not enough information to really answer your question, but he's never said I want it here or want it there. This plan was developed with him.
And he's been in the meetings.
Yeah, and he signed off on this internally to proceed. So I'm gonna say generally he's accepted this.
One thing I try not to say too much sometimes, but in this experience, I've been appreciative of the planning council, their comments. As much as this was something that a developer would prefer not to have to put that in, that's of course, it's gonna cost, but that's okay. Everybody's agreed to that, and at least if you do put it in today, then these people or these people have to come before the same people, go through the same thing, and you get to tell them whether they need a road or don't need a road or approve their plat. So you get 100% to do it when this becomes evident on either side, if you want to use it.
If Brown's come and said, we want to develop this property, we could say, you're gonna put that road in.
You'd have a conversation with the Browns at that point.
And like I
And they
said,
would lay theirs out, and they would say, this is why we want it this way, and y'all would talk, and we would do the same thing we've done.
And right
topic
now.
of
So we
discussion.
basically do the same thing we're doing now.
Right.
But you
it
don't
would be a
have
topic
to,
of
so you're not
discussion.
required by this meeting to extend that road by any means. I mean, you're only approving that right there. Everything else comes back to you completely. I mean, that's the,
Like I said, when I was answering Cam's question, it all depends. It depends on how they develop it,
Again, for me,
or Alan.
the property that we're talking about, we kind of want to save that for kids and whatever, and houses. You get roads in there, then all of a sudden you got an issue. My concern is across the street, that property is for sale, and those people don't want any lights shining in their front room. So I'm more concerned about the north property, 3,000, than I am the south.
Okay. Right, any other comment? Okay, board. I by no means, while I'm mayor, planning on condemning Allen's property. Alan and Cam's property and forcing a road through there. They don't need it. They have told us they didn't want it. They have, I think the plan is, for this is good. If Alan and them ever decide they want to do it, then that's up to them, if they want to put a road through there. I'm just like Scott. I don't think that we have the right to tell people what they can do with their property. We have the right to enforce our ordinances, and as long as our ordinances are used to the best of their ability, then I feel that, this is a hard one because you have so many feelings, you have so many people, you have the townspeople, you have the developers, you have people you know and care about. But I think that it's up to the board whether they want to approve this or not. And if we don't, just like Brian says, that meets all of our criteria. So I'm gonna put it to the board. You wanna talk about it some more? Or I'll accept a motion one way or the other.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
Stop with
No.
the questions.
No.
Can we have the access down here and get rid of the access right there? I mean, I can see the access down here being helpful. I get the fact they still gotta go around.
Okay,
But I think the minute we put that into right there, I agree with the Browns. I think it's gonna lower the value.
are you guys concerned about that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's no piece of property that has a road width unless you wanna go commercial. Would this open that land up for commercial?
Okay.
Well, could, I guess.
Well, I guess
Depends on its
it
own
could, but-
change.
Okay, so
Can we go one way, not the other? Will that kill your deal?
Wes, would you have a problem if we only had one, so if we had the L and not the T there, from an engineering standpoint?
Yeah, there's a question, and maybe we do keep it as an easement here, and not
and then if
not a
Alan,
I
road.
kinda
Split the
wonder
baby
if-
and do both.
Split it in half, just do
I
the
kinda
easement on
wonder
one
if
side.
If the access going north, I mean, it may never happen. But for Browns, it looks to me like if there wasn't access, it would be better to have it on the upper end that would
right,
border
right.
where they're gonna put their commercial development.
yeah. Okay,
But I think if you have an easement or the actual road, I think it's really, I mean, not an easement, if you have a right of way or the road.
okay, if we have a right of
I
way,
think it.
okay, if we have a right of way and Alan decides or Cam decides to put a road in there, then can we have them build that road?
No, not within this plat. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
No. that
So
that
we would
really
have to be, the town would have to rebuild that road.
Well, unless they developed and then we required them to put the road in.
They'd only
as
be
well.
already developed.
They'd only
We're talking
be,
two things. We're talking
Right.
about the road here, we can only require them to pay for the road here.
We-
If this was unpaved, the town would need to pay for that. We couldn't require.
Hey, Brian,
I'm inclined to say we approve it and have them put the stuff wrong.
If that was the case, then
The problem is
the road or
then
easement at the
that
top of the
kind of
property
commits
would have
Browns
to
if
be
we're
there
ever
too.
required to
Or
go
have the
that
option.
right there.
Get an
Well, in my
alley.
mind, it'd be better if.
That might not happen then.
Well, why do they wanna go in anywhere? They're gonna
They
come up
don't.
3,000
They don't.
on everything they
There's
do.
absolutely no
There's no
reason.
need for them, it doesn't help them at all.
No, hurts them, no matter what you do.
okay, but like I say, and if they decide to do it, future down the road, then we're gonna be liable to put,
I think you accomplish the same thing on here, and then this develops further.
Or here.
This works here, you'd be condemning Allen's property if they put the road out from here.
unless he agreed, unless they.
He's not gonna agree.
Okay, so,
He's not gonna agree to that.
He won't there or anywhere, there's no reason for it.
okay, so let's,
I think.
let's go to,
We're doing the service to these people.
okay. I'm gonna accept a motion from the board to what they want to do. If they wanna get rid of that stub there, or if they wanna keep the stub in. Put that in your motion, one way or the other.
Either approve as is or.
Yeah, either approve as is or approve without that stub
To the north?
to the north.
What's the cost of that stuff?
Let me ask Brian a question, I'll answer that. Brian, you say legally we couldn't put that as an impact fee, we'd have to spend the money for that stub road to the north. What if the developer agreed and offered that, said if you don't wanna build the road, that's fine. I'll say it's $20 to build that road. It's not an impact fee, it's not, here's $20, put that in your general road fund. I've now met my obligation for that road.
Oh, so whatever.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying, and I'm not gonna direct this comment towards the people here, but let me tell you what happens a lot of time in reality. And you know Jody Burnett, I've talked to him, he said a lot of times some of the biggest lawsuits that he has to defend, which are hard, is these kinds of situations. Whereas the developer says, absolutely, I will put that, I will pay for that, I will do whatever, and then I think they have a 4-year statute of limitations, and before that 4 years, they come back and sue and say, I want the money back. And the city says, well, you agreed to it, and they said, yes, I agreed to it. I knew I couldn't get my development put in without agreeing to your unreasonable request, and the judge gives them, awards them their money back. And you know, and like I said, I'm not saying that that's what these folks would do or whatever, but it's just, there just is, you know, they're just, you know, and they can sign something that says we're, I mean, willfully giving you this money and all that, and then they come back and say, well, we were coerced. And so I would generally recommend against it.
Okay.
I don't know what these guys think about it, but.
Can I ask one point of clarification? You had mentioned earlier that if we do deed the right of way to the city, okay, but don't put the road in, if we deed it to them, are you stating that here, I don't know the state law here, but if they chose to connect to that road later from the Brown side, and they wanted to use that right of way, if it's owned by the city can require the developer to develop that roadway if the city owns it.
Not necessarily. It would go back to the same thing of what the impact is.
Yeah, that's all I was asking. I don't know the rules here, because normally we were able to do that in other places where they could say, okay, you want to do that, we own the right of way, you're welcome to finish this road as you do your development, you got to connect.
And it's no different than anything else I've explained, and if they had 25 lots that were connecting to that, then you could probably say yes, but there might have 2 lots that are connected, and you're gonna say, there isn't an
Yeah,
X.
that's up to y'all. It wouldn't be on us at that point.
No, you're right.
Reference question.
And that's one of the things that, you know, that's been discussed up here, is who would have to pay for that, and really, my opinion, because you don't have a lot of property there, it would be the town that would have to pay for that stub section paved. Now, it's not a huge section.
We're grateful to put it in. We're not trying to get out of there.
No, I
Yeah, I know.
We don't want to do anything that's not appropriate. We want to do, we would love this plan to be approved, and we appreciate this debate, so we hope that we're adding positive comments and not.
No, you're just fine.
You know, and I hope that answers your question, Wes, but I mean.
Okay,
And I've had that discussion with Jody.
It sounds like a great idea, but a lot of times, in the end, it doesn't turn out to be
So
so
Wes,
great.
what's the cost of that road?
I would guess you're probably talking $250 per linear foot. What's the length of
I
that?
remember the length of that one.
It's 146 feet, more or less.
So Probably,
150 feet,
Does that count like water line stubbing and, or just?
probably, yeah.
37,500.
40,000.
If we develop that later. the
And you
town being
can't get the
liable to
developer
hold
from
that.
the other side to pay for that, huh?
What's that?
That's
Well,
interesting.
In this situation, I would say no, because you're only gonna talk, I mean, most they're gonna get is a couple of lots
Right.
that connect, because it's not deep, there's not a lot. Unless you
$20,000
said,
a lot.
unless they were putting,
That's your developers right there, and they're not.
unless you
gonna
were
pay
putting
for it.
apartments on there,
Right.
and you had 100 units that were gonna access that, then I'd say absolutely you could
Okay.
force that through, but if you're only talking 2 or 3 lots, 4 lots, I think
Okay.
you couldn't make the case, in my opinion.
All right. I'm gonna ask for,
Can we voice opinions on this to kind of
yeah,
share our concerns and then we could take a vote?
yes.
I'm interested in what Jim and Scott and, not necessarily Vaughn, but what they have to say. No, I'm just joking. Because it might change a little bit as far as what I'm thinking about, and I can start with my opinion, then we can go around the
Okay,
table
go
before we
ahead.
vote.
Start with your opinion.
My feeling is if these guys meet the criteria for that development to go in, with Probst Lane being the only point of access, then they have a right to expect the town to approve that, I believe, if they meet our ordinances.
Right.
My feeling is on these 2 stubs, to avoid possible lawsuits down the road from homeowners who thought that was their property, but it's not their property, and it gets developed, gets connected, and then you're digging out people's gardens and planters and so on. I feel like those stubs should be curbed and paved when the thing goes in.
Okay.
And if it never gets developed, kids have a great spot where it's safe to put a basketball backboard, pickleball court, whatever. But at least it wouldn't be a surprise to people on the street when there's a connection comes along. So at least that's kind of my thinking, unless you guys would have some other thoughts on it. Vaughn?
My thoughts are exactly the same as yours. I think we've messed with these guys a long time. And I think one of my issues has always been, we can't refuse to approve something if it meets our requirements. We're not doing our job. If we fail to approve something that meets what we have in our ordinance and they comply with everything we've asked them to do, and to just throw other stuff on top of it, I don't think is fair. And I kind of agree. I think if we approve it, put the road in, see what happens.
Scott?
I'm still thinking.
Jim?
I'm of the same opinion. I'm not for condemning anyone's property, that's first off, I mean. But as far as the approval goes, I'm good with that, except for that stub. I'm just kind of torn on that right now. I mean, we can develop it, we can do it, but then like Alan said, people look across the road from the property they're buying and they say, hey, what about that? So I'm kind of torn on that part of it.
Well, with my comments, I'm talking about putting that stub road in. I'm not talking about requiring Browns to do anything, and I don't think they ever will.
No, I know that. What I'm saying is their big concern is if there's a road sitting here and right across the road they're sitting here, well, now they've got that property devalued because they're looking at this road coming through their property, correct?
Possibly.
Let me ask you a question though, Jim, and this is just in theory, I'm not disagreeing with you, but if you didn't put in the blacktop and the curbing, are you deceiving to some degree or another future property buyers and so on?
Shouldn't be, there's an envelope. They'll have a building envelope that they can build within, and it's not gonna be within that easement. I mean, they're gonna know there's an every time I
They're
build a house.
talking about the people to the north.
People to the north, so I think if it's landscaped and stuff, I would tend to think, particularly realtors, are there any realtors in here? I don't have a lot of concerns as far as realtors are being truthful. They're almost like attorneys, but anyway. But if it looks like it's just part of that development, I'm concerned guys on the north wanting to buy property there and do this or that or whatever, potentially, and then let's say, oh, really? There's an easement through there that's possible for a connection? Why didn't anybody say anything to me? I might have changed my mind, or I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Where if it's paved and it's got a curb, it's obvious. There is the potential of a connection at this point where otherwise people may not know that. I don't know. I don't have any necessarily great ideas on, I'm just asking questions.
Just, Cam, really quick, can you come here real quick?
Yeah.
Sorry, where's the house across the street that's gonna have the headlight issues? Where's that?
So you're looking right,
But right back here is the big one, right?
no, I don't know where
It's
I'm
a
at.
future
Okay.
home.
Your road.
So Cam, if that
Right here.
come
there's
out
one.
of 3,000.
There's the one, there's the proposed road, right, through their property, the T's right there.
Okay.
The big
That's pretty
stuff's all
close
over
to
here,
your, they
right?
said no stuff.
Right across from your,
Yeah, that's where we're at right there.
yeah, and there's the big house, so which house right here has got this headlight issue?
Well,
There's
they
not a house
wouldn't,
there yet.
nobody
Oh.
would.
There's 3 acres, or there's 3 lots right there, they're up for sale, regardless where that road is there.
One,
That would be the problem.
Okay.
One of them's gonna get out. So what was that?
But like our house, we've got
Where-
Casperville landscaping our ways for people to deal with the headlights and, right?
Right.
Or I mean, we,
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you had a lot
Yeah.
and the street's coming right straight into your lot.
it's an issue.
That's an issue.
That's
issue right now.
Yeah, I mean, Dad's probably the one that,
Dad, step up here.
if that property right there had that stub coming out in their backyard, I don't know if that's that big of a deal.
Well,
If I were a homeowner,
I'm saying future growth. You
Right.
put 2 houses down here, they might want this road anyways to turn in their house from this side. Could be, not on this main road.
Well,
That would be up to who,
onto a main
That's what I'm saying. It
that might be
better
up
for
to
you.
whoever builds there.
Yeah.
That would be whether it's your kids or your grandkids or whatever.
well, I was gonna go like this and put the cul-de-sac there and you can build on each side until we went to 2-acre lots. 2-acre lots is a real problem.
Yeah, but would it?
But this
if
road
was here-
up here is right in, you know, it's next to Steele's, it's that Allen
Right,
Larson's now.
right.
So, you know, this is an issue if it was tapped into there, plus you got
But
the,
if you're doing cul-de-sacs like you said here.
this can't be
come
done
in on
now.
this side, you can cul-de-sac there. I said, I'm just saying if it ever changed, that could be another thing that.
Well, I guess I'm a little more concerned to protect this over here, because this is for sale, this isn't.
Yeah.
this is, the kids are gonna get what they get, and you better live with it more. Just be
I
thinking.
guess the
it's
road,
lots.
I guess it would be to see where
I
these
mean,
come out,
I know,
200
whatever's
feet.
a
I
hard
would
thing.
say, no,
You wanna
you got
go
4 of my kids.
divided
so
in
they're
lots.
800 feet, and then whatever's between that, the sheds.
So what my question was, if you guys would never plan to sell this because your family, then that thing will stay stuck forever.
Well, that's the question we need to answer is, do we put this road in if we develop any of this property?
No, you don't have to put the
No,
road
you
up.
won't have
Unless
to
we
put
get
it.
to that 60 acres, we don't have to do nothing.
I would not say that you should have to do
That's a big, that's a
anything.
big deal. Because if you say we can't develop this at all,
No, unless
unless you put
that
that
road
road in,
in.
that's a real problem.
And I don't think that's our choice, that's your choice.
So that's-
You're the property owner.
Right.
So so what we're trying to decide now is whether we wanna put this and just stub it there, or whether we wanna get rid of that and have the easement.
Well, that's the problem is, you know, that road being set there, then we're stuck with, we'd have to go see how many feet we're talking to see where that road comes out.
Well, and,
Because it works out for them.
Generalize it.
or you can, or if you decided to do one, or if you decide,
What we would do there is we would come up 200 feet back 400.
Yeah.
2 back 4, 2 back 4.
Yeah.
When you get to this road, you like come up 100,
yeah.
it's in the wrong place.
And not only
Know
that,
that answer.
you could move, you could change that road to
But
go
even if we
another
change it, then they
way.
can't change it.
Right,
So there's, like Brian said, somebody comes first.
Yeah.
So, you know, improve it then.
okay. All right, okay.
And I know you find the road being there.
Yes, it was.
Maybe the top of the house because it goes to no.
But as this
The road's
is right
here,
now,
it's not gonna happen right now. Right.
Okay.
That's what.
and all sorts of.
Who owns across the street?
Okay, are we ready for a vote? We need to go home.
They do.
No, we're not going home for a while.
Okay, all right.
I think I am.
But I think we're ready to call for a vote. So, I'm open for a motion.
Go through Darren, make your motion.
Did anyone have any other conditions to that? Or as is?
Actually, I'm fine either way. I'm just thinking of avoiding future problems. Homeowners that thought that it was their property when it wasn't.
And if we're trying to guess what the future holds,
We don't
we're gonna
know.
be wrong.
Yeah, well, that's true. I would make a motion that that development is approved
Saw it earlier.
based on that plat map with the access, only access being Approach Road. And I don't think I would make a condition on both of those stubs being paved and curbed and so on. I'm pretty indifferent on that, so I would vote that they not have to be paved and curbed, those two stubs. That would be my motion, that they not be required to do that. But if you
So
guys
that
want to change my mind, please.
What's your recommendation on that, Brian? As far as that, would you?
Have them do it or not?
My,
In your
my
years of experience.
recommendation would be do it, just from experience. I mean, it just, like I say, there'll be a battle no matter what you do when somebody else develops. Everybody thinks that the farmer next to them is never gonna develop, their cows are always gonna be there, their hay's always gonna be there. And it's just growing pains. But if you've got it there and you've got it stubbed, you've at least made a statement that someday it may go through. But my suggestion would either be pave them both or only require the stub to the south and pave that one. But I think you're just asking for trouble with just having easements that aren't paved, and I've seen it dozens of times.
So as this is proposed.
But whatever you decide, I'm okay with.
As this is proposed, that's with them doing pavement and curb right now.
That's the way,
correct?
that's the way it exists.
Vaughn and I both agree that south is the only one that we feel like would be particularly likely in the future, so we would be.
I'd be inclined to just say, do it the way it is on there, and then we'll see what happens.
I just said accept the map with them paving it then.
Really struggling with that.
Which one?
This one. I don't know, it just does not, the only benefit I see is that they can access that road and not back onto a busy road. And I can see that helping their kids. You're backing out onto not 3,000, you're backing out onto here.
That's if they choose to develop.
That's if they choose to
But if the
do
Browns
that,
develop
so.
it, keep it 3,000, then this won't even be an issue.
You lost me there,
Okay.
So
backing on to 3,000.
Well, I mean,
they're just saying if there's a road there in the future and the Browns build on each side of it. they
yeah,
can
if they
stub
put the road all the
down
way
to
through,
houses
then
instead of
people can
coming
come
out.
through and I like that.
I don't think there'll ever be a road there.
I don't think there will.
Then why we would put it in now? Why would we ever have it?
So, okay, so what the dilemma is here now, if we don't require that road to be paved,
Then we're gonna end up paying for it.
then we will pay for it when
I think we
it
need
comes
to follow
time.
I mean, we pay Brian's, give us his expert opinion, he's got 30 years, I think. If he
Right.
makes a recommendation, I don't follow it.
Okay? All right.
So do we have a new motion? Okay, so I would make a new motion that it's approved as is with the condition that those stub roads are improved, they're paved, curbing is put in.
I will second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Does it need to be roll call? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I think I'll oppose that one.
Okay. Motion carries
As it sits.
as it sits.
With you paving and curbing. Both sides.
Thank you.
That was a hard one, guys. That, you know. And I know it's gonna get harder as we move on. I think that now we have to, yeah, I think it's gonna be harder as we move on, and
and like I said, I feel for the planning commission, because what
Right.
they're charged to do, and
Yeah,
I just don't think the law's backed up, and trying to do what they want to do.
I just cannot see condemning somebody's property and putting a road in. I think this is okay.
I think we're all against
Yeah,
property.
yeah.
These are my
Unless it
suggestions
comes
of what their
down to
options
something
were.
that's
They
really
chose that.
essential for the town.
When I write stuff,
I think over time, this will sort itself out as
Right.
things change.
Okay.
I think this will sort itself out.
All right, we've got that done.
Thank you.
So let's move on. Are we ready to move on to some fun stuff?
Well, something better.
Okay. Like we said, we have, we've been looking for a Public Works Director. Scott,
Been very patient tonight, too.
yeah, Scott. It's okay. Scott and Daryl interviewed Justin a couple of weeks ago, week and a half ago. And I reclused from that because of interest, conflict of interest. I never had anything to do with that. These two interviewed him. I come in after the interview and ask what they thought. Then we went to the other board members and talked with them, and they agreed. I just want to make it known that our new Public Works Director is Justin Hooper. He's very well qualified for the job. He's a certified plumber. He has very good credentials. I'm going to let the guys that interviewed him tell you what they thought. Go ahead, you two.
I think we both said that if you don't hire him, we're going to, so you better do it.
Actually, I think we did say that.
No, we're super excited to have
I've
him.
known, I want to do that. I've known Justin for about 13 years now. I've known him to be a hard worker. I've known him to always have a job. He was the one that fixed our water heater for us. I think that he will be very good in this position. I just want the approval of the board tonight to make it, put it on record that we approve to have him as our Public Works Director.
So do we need to make a motion for that? Or not?
Well, has he been hired? Because if he's
Yeah,
not
answer
hired,
that.
Yeah,
then
but I
if you
just
don't,
wanted to
you're
make it.
firing him. I think, however you want to do it, I mean.
I think we should go ahead and do it as a motion
That's fine.
so that it's on record. I will abstain from that motion because of my conflict of interest. So if one of you two want to make the motion, then we'll go from
I'll
there.
make a motion that we hire Justin Hooper as our Public Works Director.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So you're official. Okay. Do you want to stand and tell us just a little bit about yourself, Justin? Kind of your work experience, just a little bit.
My name's Justin Hooper. I've been here for, like she said, right around 13 years. I met my wife that's from Charleston. We live in Heber now. We have 2 small children. I've plumbed for 17, 18 years. The last job I had, I was at for almost 12 years, working for Adam Knight Plumbing. Before that, I worked as a police officer for a little while. I worked at a tire lube center. I've had a job since I've been 12 years old, so I don't like to stand still. But
Or sit still through a long meeting, right?
They're
Okay,
used to that.
yeah. Okay, so this is Justin. He will be our Public Works Director. He will start officially on Tuesday. I'll meet you here at 8 o'clock on Tuesday morning, along with Dave, if you'd like to be here. And we'll go over a few things. You can get some advice from Dave and a few things going on of what's been going on. Mark can help you there. Also, I have told Dave that I want him to stay over the cemetery for a while anyway, until he feels he can't do it anymore. But I want him to make sure that Justin knows how to take care and do things. So I think that that's all we need to say. We want to welcome you. We're glad you're here. We hope that we can keep you. And thank you. You guys want to say anything?
We asked him if he had any conflicts that he wanted to tell us about, and he goes, I don't remember any. You know, that, in today's world, that's a good man right there.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. We're almost done, guys. History books. We have 55 cases of history books up in the attic.
Cases?
Yes.
Not books?
Cases.
So that's like one per household.
We have 912 books. I don't know how many was ordered. I can't tell you how many's been sold. But we've got these 912 books sitting up in the attic.
That are ancient history.
And I'm thinking
When were they printed?
go get one, Karen.
It's been, I remember when it was done.
It's been 20 years. I think.
It's been a while. My
You
mother
should
was still
pass them out
alive.
with your campaign letter.
It's been quite a while ago.
Becky,
so I remember it's been a long
Put
time.
that together.
What I'm thinking, my opinion and my opinion only, okay, is we took the price, 2,000.
Oh, wow.
We took the price down to $15 from $20. We have sold a few. Peggy Saby is really good at doing this. She has been amazing at selling these books. What I would like to do is I would like to ask the board, I think we should sell them for $5 a piece to our town residents. If they want to buy them for family, friends, whatever, I think that we should sell them for $5. To the public, I think we should sell them for 10.
Mayor, I've got another thought that just came to me, and I mean, you're doing the right thing here by 5. I wonder if it would be a kind thing to do to welcome new move-ins with a free
And
book.
give them one. It's a good idea.
I mean,
it's a
we've
good
got
idea.
enough that we'll be able to overpopulate the community and still have books.
Carry in every household 3 books.
I had a thought too. Can I share it?
Okay, yes.
Why not, in your newsletter, tell everybody how many we got? And give them to residents and ask them for a contribution. You'll collect more money than the $5 a piece, I think.
I'm okay with that
I'm
too.
gonna throw it all in a pot and have a town party.
Throw it all into
I
our
mean,
roads.
I'm guessing some of the
Yeah.
residents will give you $100.
Yeah. So I
I
think that
don't know.
I'm open for
We've
suggestions.
had them 20 years and there's still 900 of them. What's the point of keeping them?
Yeah. In fact, Justin, I'm gonna give you one of them tonight.
That'll be $5.
We deducted from your tax paying.
We're gonna take it out of your first.
And Tuesday morning at 8 a.m.
No,
you'll
it's
have a
10,
test on
Justin.
what's in it.
Yeah. So I want you to take that book right there home tonight. I think it's a good idea. I know that everybody here has one, right? I've gave all the council one.
I don't have one.
You don't have one?
Well, I bought mine. I'm gonna need a refund.
Karen, you got some, give them to these. I think it's important that I was given mine when I come on the council, so I think it's important that every council member have one. Yeah, so do we want to do the residents a donation? Everybody else?
Tell them they're here, they gotta come pick
$10?
them up, and if they'd like
Oh,
to
yeah.
make a donation, I wouldn't just send it out to them, but. I
Yeah,
like that idea.
I don't think you'll ever sell them. I think a donation is
I
the
was
right
gonna
way
say
to go.
donations
Yeah.
are giving away as Christmas gifts to every
do you want to
house.
do it to everybody
Right.
donation or
Christmas.
just to
Christmas.
the
Christmas.
townspeople
Here's my,
donation?
You got 900 books, you can do most of Heber
Your,
Valley.
biopsy or whatever.
But I think for people that don't live in town, they should pay something.
Donation.
I think you get more than
Okay.
$5 from a donation.
Okay. All right, so we'll give them to anybody for a donation.
That wants to come pick them, and we appreciate a donation.
Okay.
Who's gonna get them out of the attic?
We know how to do that. We've got 2 cases. Hey, me and Karen's got this down pat. We know how to get up in that attic, get them out, and get them down.
And
We've done this.
whoever ordered that number of books should be here to help unload all those.
I
books.
don't even know how much they paid for them. We can't even find anything, what we paid for them.
There was a lot of effort when.
Was $3,000?
I feel like I'm back in school. This looks like a
Your woman's in there, I'm sure.
Well, that's not bad then, because we've made that much.
I don't know if I have one, I'll bring it back.
If you have one, no, take it.
it.
Give Wes one. Dave?
Do you guys have one?
Yeah, I'll check for next month.
Okay.
Do you have one?
I will get one for all my kids, so.
Okay, so we will do it as a donation. In fact, I will have Karen do that on Monday and send that out so that people that want to come and get them can come and get them. That's a Tuesday, not Monday. Monday's a holiday. Justin, that's a good thing for us on Tuesday. You and Dave can crawl up in that attic and bring down some more cases.
We're not gonna make me ride this.
I won't make you ride that anymore. You should have seen
What I
her.
said, it's a good thing I knew how to learn how to ride a horse,
There you go.
because I
There's
had
my
to
donation.
straddle boxes
So
coming
there.
down.
How many do you want?
One.
Okay. All right.
It's clear up there.
So, Vaughn just donated $20.
Nasty places.
Karen,
What?
Vaughn just donated $20.
Awesome.
All right, so that's with the history books, okay? We can move on now. All right, we've been having trouble with Soldier Hollow. Parking issues, terrible. It's been horrible.
It was bad all day today, too. There was a car sitting right there in front of that stop sign for about 5 hours.
Okay, so
Those need to get ticketed.
I've got,
What's the law? How close can you park to a stop sign?
60 feet.
When you come home and see that car there, why don't you put a ticket in their windshield?
So it's
I'm
kind
tired
of,
by then.
it's kind of funny you guys brought this up because they've approached the sheriff's office on it already. Is it Ryan or someone over there?
probably,
So
The school did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So me and Brian have been over here looking at the congestion and all that stuff. We've come up with a couple ideas on how they can change things on the load and unload. But also at the same time, and this is Brian's still working with them, he's thinking the city might wanna, or the town, I should say, might wanna put a sign up here on the corner saying no left turns during this time because of the cars that come down and try and drop off in.
that'll stop them.
And then they took it back out. I put it in, and then they took it back out.
So we do have a sign somewhere.
That probably the school's got it.
I put it in, and
Okay.
it's no left turn.
No left
coming out of
turns?
that
You
sign.
mean, so when I come down 3,000 to come home, I can't?
That's
turn?
at the
No,
school
no, no, no,
though.
no.
That's coming out of the
It's when they come
school.
off of 113 and they come up and then they try and kick over into the school and block the other cars trying to turn in and create that
Well,
congestion.
today, there was a SUV, a Ford, that sat there. I think it's they're doing those scarecrow things on the
Mhm.
fence. So I think it's parents that come and they wanna park right there. And that, it sat there for, I don't know,
Well, that's
most of the day, and it was actually on the asphalt within about 10 feet of the stop sign.
So that's what we're working on. So Brian was trying to get hold of Ryan today and come up with our ideas and suggestions. So we might wanna sit on this for a little bit and see what those
Okay.
two can come up with.
And then they'll come down and come across,
Oh yeah, we watched
Here.
no turns, no
and they
this,
can't get in, and
cones,
so they
flipping
pull
around.
Can
right
we
in the middle of the
put-
street, and they're sitting right in the middle of 3,000
Okay, so
south.
what I told the
With their blanket on.
What I told the principal, or the Dave Phillips, whatever he is, I told him, I said, you know, this has got to stop. It's not only our residents, but it's the safety of them kids. It's the safety of them kids crossing that street to get in a car on the other side when they could have went in and picked him up. My suggestion is there's parking in there. Go over there and park and wait for your kid if you want to do that. Don't park on our side roads. I can get some more no parking signs.
Won't matter.
Yeah,
I
you're right,
can-
it doesn't.
Yeah. The other day when I come down there after I
Roofing tax?
talked with, when I come down and I come across there and I looked in my rearview mirror, there was a car behind me that parked right there in front of Brent and Barbara's house. So I turned around. I'm like following the trucks now. I turned around and I went back and I told her. I said, you cannot park here. I said, there's parking over in the school. First of all, I said, what are you parking here for? Are you waiting for a child? Or she says, no, we're here to help put up the scarecrows. I'm volunteer. And I said, well, this is really not a good place to park. There's parking over in the school. I suggest that you park there. I told Dave Phillips at the school that if this didn't change and if this didn't work, I was going to have him come down and give tickets. And he told me, well, did you guys read the letter he wrote?
Is this the same date that's going to city council?
You know, in all fairness to the school, I think they do make an effort.
I do, it's the
I don't know how
parents.
much.
Soccer moms. They don't make an effort of what other schools are doing. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
So we've been doing like I said, we've been looking at the other schools, how they're doing the load in, load out. So Brian, like I said, has been doing some stuff. We came and looked at it, so we've come up with some ideas. So Brian made some calls today, I know that, to try and talk about this.
Okay.
So before anything's said on official stuff, like how it came up, just give Brian like a week or so.
And I'm willing to do that. I just think that something needs to be done. We get complaints every day of this traffic over there
They have a lot more room to load cars in
right,
than what they're using.
right.
So that needs to be addressed.
I know that one time they had them going around the back of the building. This don't show anything going around the back of
Yeah.
the building.
So there's like a loop and stuff we've been looking at. So Brian's gonna talk to him and then we'll come up with that. And then once I hear
Okay.
something, I'll kind of let you guys know.
Okay, so maybe by next month we'll know.
You're not too long ago, that route, if you're picking up one child, you go this way.
Right, and
If
they've
you're picking up more than one child, you go this
So
way.
we're trying to make sure it's safe though, because these kids are just popping in and out of the cars, and you have a car that's running late, they jump out and now they.
yeah.
So we're trying to work something.
This is the same every charter school I've ever dealt with has this problem, and it's like they like to play Frogger with their kids.
And
Old enough to know what Frogger is.
And that's, it's really hard for us because all the other schools, they have their own SROs there that take care of the school.
Right.
Well, this being a charter school,
doesn't.
they don't. So
Yeah.
we're just down here trying to help them, and so there's a lot they can do.
Yeah.
So.
I just think having police presence helps.
It'll be,
We have some
need to do
ideas.
this, and it's a constant battle, because I guarantee in 2 years you'll be back there going,
What, yeah.
they're new people.
Well, or
Yeah,
new,
their
new
staff turns
principal,
over so
new
fast.
whatever, yeah,
New parents every year.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the old ones that were doing bad, and then the new ones do even worse.
But you gotta stay on top of it.
We're just, like I said, we're working on some ideas, some plans, if they agree, if they don't
Okay.
agree. then there might be a few little deputies parked down there helping them decide the right thing.
Don't you think that comes from the sheriff's department to the school?
Huh?
If that comes from you guys, from the sheriff's department to the school rather than from
That's where it is right now, is me and Brian is dealing with them.
I think that's great, and I'm so glad. Karen, you gotta fly in here. And I think that's an important thing, to have that presence of the sheriff's department. I called one day to say, we need to do something down here. We got people parked along this no parking zone. Well, are they waiting for the kids? I don't know whether they're waiting for the kids or not, but that shouldn't matter.
Some of those cars just sit there with nobody in them. They just park there and leave.
And then they walk across the street to get their kids.
Yeah,
Well, why not
Like I
pull
said,
them?
we've been watching.
Okay, thank you.
We're unmarked, so they don't know what we're doing.
deputy down here like we used to?
You don't have one?
Not anymore.
Nope.
I'd say let's table it and then see what
Right, and I think that's what we should
Sheriff's
do.
office comes up with.
So we'll table it until next month. By then you should have
We
a,
should have some idea of what's gonna happen.
okay. Oh, all right, let's go into staff reports. Karen, let's start with you. Anything? Brian, you give yours. Daryl,
No, there's a few tune-ups and fixes over in the park need to be done. Nothing that's safety problems, but
get with Justin.
Justin, give me a call. I'll give you a couple of to-dos over there. Quick and easy ones, but they just need to be done.
Okay,
I just need numbers from everybody.
I'll get you those.
okay. Vaughn?
I haven't talked to Smedley yet
I had another call today, so,
from one of the parties involved.
yeah. So if you could get that, do that as soon as possible, that would be good. Okay,
I'm probably gonna do the same thing in front of my house that our neighbor just did in front of his house and put that curb back in, that trench back in. Cause
Okay.
we've got major water problems on that Winterton Road, and you've got neighbors that are stating they're not gonna pay their assessment fee this year.
oh yeah, they are, they cannot.
I know, but the problem is, I mean, there's major water problems on the road.
I'd like to go over there and look at it. Bennett is scheduled to come back and address some of them.
Yeah.
I wanna make sure they're getting all of them.
That was a question I had, because, you know, we had standing water over here on the corner again. And I was wondering if they just forgot that or if they're planning to come back.
They're coming back.
Wes, there's at the junction of Winterton Circle where
Yeah.
it meets, well, the cul-de-sac where it meets the main
Yeah.
road.
That's one
There
of the
is a
issues that-
ductwork underneath that.
That's one of
for
the issues
drainage.
they're gonna
Okay.
address.
Yeah, because that's been collecting on that spot too.
Yeah, that's a really bad one, but they found the one,
Yeah,
They did.
which is huge, helpful.
Mm-hmm.
and
Well,
Bennett's gonna take care of that also. They're gonna come in and,
You know, I saw
It's,
that, Scott. But it looked to me like that's not necessarily gonna collect the water off the road. I looked at it and I thought they just like
Well,
the look of it.
if they slope everything to it now, it sure would though.
But
Yeah.
theirs isn't sloped, I don't think, is it?
Which one?
The one
That's dug up right
that
now?
neighbor that did that. I just drove around there the other day
Oh.
and I saw that they put that rock back in there in front of that one property.
Yeah,
But that looked like it wouldn't collect water as much as it was just for looks.
I think it'll collect water.
There's slope there, and they do
Is
have a
it? Yeah.
culvert underneath their driveway.
Yeah, I think it'll collect water just fine.
There's
and
two
I-
dead prairie dogs in it.
Yeah, there's probably some live ones and some dead ones,
okay,
but
Put your number in there.
sure.
okay, is that your only concern?
Yeah.
What about the Christmas party? How are we coming on that, you guys?
I'm waiting for Fauci to tell us if we're even meeting for Christmas or not.
We are. Okay, Jim, anything from you?
No, we
Other-
talked enough about roads today.
Four
I mean,
times between now and Christmas.
that pothole's getting bigger over on
And that's,
3,000.
that's why, that's another reason, is they park there, then they cut around that
It's been
corner.
cut, it's been dropping that corner off.
Yeah, yeah,
And when Bennett comes back, they're up in Camas right now and they're complaining They do really good work.
They do.
And Camus keeps giving them more and more and more
Oh, yeah.
because they can't find contractors
Just
to
to do
work.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as they finish Camus, they're coming here.
Okay.
Can they put a patch on that corner, a little more road or something?
Yeah, they can, but what you're gonna find is the corner now, they go 15 and go off the edge. You widen the asphalt, they go 20 and go off the edge.
Yeah.
You widen it more and they go
Even 45,
25.
you mean that stop sign doesn't work?
No.
They say big rocks on the corner, but I think that's illegal.
No, it's not.
It's not?
That might work for the parking too. We could put
Yeah,
some big
big
bollards
rocks
right
right
there.
there.
So they can't park there.
You know, that's not a bad idea.
I've seen
actually.
guys do that all the time.
There's some thought
I
about
know
that.
someone over on 113 that has rocks all over.
I know somebody on 113 that has them too.
Some really big ones, huh, with black marks.
All right,
You put a couple big
then
rocks right
we'll,
there. They couldn't park there.
are we,
I got a whole big line of them.
I
okay,
make a motion, we adjourn.
No.
Oh, your
No.
turn.
my turn.
Sorry. Sorry.
I make a motion.
You have a
Mayor
motion
has
on the
no
table,
say.
Mayor.
I only have, yeah, but I can have a discussion before we vote.
Yes, you can.
Okay. I will be okay with that motion to adjourn, but I want everybody that, on my board and everybody that has keys to please stay after I have got new keys for everyone. Okay?
Can I make one? Why do we have 3 locks on that gate at the park?
Well, we only really need one, and you'll only have one key to one lock. You got
Need a
more.
longer chain.
We need. I will donate a long chain with one lock for it if the city is okay with that. Because those, Dave, you probably know why. I don't understand why there's 3 locks, but we only have keys to one.
Because that lock that you're using was left by the federal government. The others was left by 2 different contractors that had the option to go in to build the building that's built there.
Okay, let's get rid of them all but the
Throw those
one.
away.
And the one that
So you
we're
just need to
using
rekey everything.
is a good one because you cannot unlock
We
it
had multiple locks
take
on
the key
gates.
out.
and
That's
take the
usually
key
one
out.
for the
You
water
have to
company,
leave
one
the
for the
key
fire
in
department,
Yeah.
one for-
until you
know
lock
what,
it back, which
everyone
makes
needs their own
it a
lock.
better key, a better lock.
No, I agree. I'd say let's keep that lock. It's probably $1 million lock if it's a federal lock. Let's keep it and put a longer chain on there and get rid of those other 2.
Well, you won't need a longer chain. All you gotta do is cut those off and then put that lock, it'll take care of it in the chain itself.
Okay,
Because it's a short.
Justin?
I'll figure that out. But
Justin,
Yeah, that's.
So
another to do for you.
Those extra locks are there, we don't have keys to them.
Well, we do have some keys to them.
I'll have to see.
No,
But-
there's no keys to those.
Those are contractors.
They're gone.
Okay,
So they're
Okay.
just there.
so let's cut
They're
them
extra
off.
links.
Bring my grandma. With my,
Yeah.
We'll cut them off and we'll only leave the one with the one key. Okay?
Let's do this, Justin. You call me. I'll meet you at the park. I'll go over the fixes, and we'll sort that lock out while we're there. I have lots of chain at my house if we need it, so I'll just bring some spare just in case.
All right. Now we have a motion on the floor.
I'll second it, whatever it is.
There was a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
who made the motion?
I don't know.
Jim?
No.
Scott did.
Scott did.
Whose phone's this?
I got pretty excited about it.
And now I'm going to
Hey, Wes?
stop
I
video.
think there's only 2 culverts on Winterton Road.
Stop.
It's usually you
Over
come
there.
hold on.
You think there's more? 'Cause I think there's the one at the connection of the
Share.
circle, the cul-de-sac.
Yeah,
And then the one that's already been done. I think those are the only 2 that
Yeah.
are there.
Geez, look at that.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, Jim, don't leave yet. You gotta get your keys.
Oh, I didn't know where to get it. I was gonna go to key real quick.
Oh, okay, you can go do that.
Expose that culvert,
Okay,
then go
Dave?
3 feet, fill that in with drain rock. So it'll take what water is there, then what's there, it'll go to the other side.
All right, good.
Geez, the whole Carlson family's in there.
Yeah.
Site plan for the.
Okay, Vaughn? You will add these two keys to this, and you'll have a full set of keys.
Why do I want all those keys?
Because I said.
He's halfway out of here. I don't know if
Okay.
he should be given any keys.
Joe, give them back to me. I need your
I get
keys.
Wes his, so if you'll give Mark his, I'll take mine
No,
for you.
this is
I gotta run out and
yours.
grab my key.
When you put them keys on there, you'll have a full set of keys.
Can I put them on my beehive things?
You can make mine.
All right.
We're not saying anything. Okay, Dave,
Those are fine. I prefer you keep most of the originals anyway.
Okay.
I have your keys.
I'm not in trouble.
Okay,
Okay,
so, you're not.
this has got your name on it though, so I know where the keys are. Okay, Scott,
Look at that.
there's you a full set of
And-
keys.
How you been, Wes?
Jim,
Sorry.
there's you a full set of
Busy, I
keys.
guess, huh?
When you say a full set, we're talking town hall,